A little bit of business, a little bit of information, and a little bit of entertainment on BizBuzz on MarlowFM 97.5.
Well, good afternoon. It's the Mike and Mark show here on BizBuzz, MarlowFM. And we're both here this afternoon. And later on, we're going to have a guest, Kevin Dobson from Beyond Fitness. And the theme's going to be all about staying fit at work. Whether you are working manually or whether you're working using your brain all the time, Kevin's got something to say about staying fit to help you do all that. Meanwhile, we're going to start with a little bit of music called Feeling Good. Well, right, as I say, the theme of today is about staying fit, and we'll have a guest later on. But for the moment, I've got a question for you, Mark.
Go for it.
I heard that you like to play a little hand of cards for maybe a little bit of money.
I've been known to sit down at a poker table every now and again.
That's what I heard. And what would you say if I said to you, I reckon I can increase your risk-taking when you're at the gambling table?
I'd like to think that you can't influence me that easily.
Well, according to a little bit of research I've been reading, if I were to give you a minor challenge to your masculinity...
Ooh.
And that could be as simple as asking you to try a new product which is pink, wrapped in a pink package, and it's hand lotion, and you were to try that, and then go and play at the card table.
Yeah.
Yeah, according to this research, which was done in the States, and I think it was done with people who were working in Wall Street, that when they went back to a gaming table, they played for higher stakes than if they weren't challenged, their sexuality wasn't challenged. And they played for shorter rather than long-term games.
Interesting.
Now,
So
would that work for you?
I suppose the only way to find out is to try it. So best you get out the nice pink hand cream. I know that what a lot of poker players do, what a lot of gamblers do, and what a lot of people do in the business world is they try to influence the behaviour of others. That's a lot of what success is about in those various arenas. And with poker in particular, if someone, the expression is somebody goes on tilt, they're out of control, they're betting irrationally, and they usually go on tilt when something's gone wrong. But there are people who try intentionally to upset other players and to put them off kilter, I suppose is another way of saying on tilt, and that influences their play. Now, whether it's politically correct to even ask the question, but whether influencing my masculinity or casting a slur on my masculinity would influence my poker.
No, I wasn't going to cast a slur. He was just going to say, "Here, try this hand cream, Mark."
Yeah, see, it's interesting. See, if you cast a slur, and I forget my masculinity, if you just cast a slur, that I am renowned for being unable to take unjustified criticism. Justified criticism I'm very good at. Constructive criticism, but unjustified. If you give me a hard time for no apparent reason, then I can accept it would possibly influence my style of play because I would be much more hyper and much less controlled. But I don't know about the pink thing.
Well, research. They gave a bunch of guys this stuff wrapped in pink packaging, asked them to try it. That's the only difference between them and the guys that didn't have a gender challenge, and the ones that had what they call a gender threat. Definitely played harder for higher stakes and for shorter gain. Now, the point of the experiment is to do with business. It's all part of a number of pieces of work that have been done to try and understand what was going on in our heads. I suppose all of us, certainly the guys on Wall Street and in the city, at the time of the crash. What was all that risk-taking about? Where did that come from? Now,
do you think it came from giving them pink hand lotion?
Maybe there was a run on the shops on pink hand. I don't know. It just suggests that there may be some very subtle challenges to male gender. Now, what it doesn't say anything about, and the researchers do say there's more work needs to be done, it says nothing about the female mentality in terms of risk-taking and so on, and whether there's any effect on their risk-taking if you challenge their femininity.
Okay. But the other thing it doesn't touch on at all, as far as I know, not having read the full 7,000 pages or whatever there was, what was the sexuality of the men involved?
Male.
No, they were male. What was their? That was their sex, not their sexuality. Well, because if you are a big macho, muscle-bound male, then maybe your sexuality, your gender would be challenged by would be a gender threat. But if you're gay, then would a pink hand lotion threaten your gender?
That's a piece of research you might suggest they do. You may suggest they didn't control for sexual orientation.
Yes, I have almost nothing to do next week, so maybe I'll give that a go.
Yeah, you could have a go at one of these experiments yourself.
Absolutely. Question: did you enjoy the Olympics?
I did. I thought the Olympics was absolutely fabulous, and I was at Dorney Lake, and my wife and I had an absolutely excellent time watching all of the goings on at Dorney Lake and winning gold medals, and we just feel it's a pity we didn't get tickets for any of the games in the arena. Did you?
Yeah. Not
No.
in the athletics arena, no. I was lucky enough to go to a number of other cultural and sporting events.
So why do you ask?
I asked because the Paralympics are now upon us, and there's a really interesting rule in the Paralympics, which I won't sort of specifically tell you the rule, but I'll tell you that it's against the rules to break your own toe.
Well, I would imagine it is.
Well,
Although I can't think why. What does it do?
why would it be if you want to break your toe or indeed harm yourself in any way? And the practice, which is apparently prevalent in the Paralympic sporting world, but goes for a lot of other sporting activities as well. In fact, in the Paralympics, up to a third of competitors with spinal injuries could well be harming themselves, and the reason they're doing it is to boost their performance.
Boost your performance by harming yourself.
Absolutely. Now, the harm you do to yourself must obviously not be detrimental to the sport itself. So I would debate whether, if you were doing the 100 metres, whether breaking your toe is actually going to be a benefit. But the concept of it is that this boosting, as it's called, boosting your performance, is designed to increase blood pressure and enhance performance.
Oh. Because I was going to say, how does it physiologically work? Does that mean that if you, for example, have no feeling in your left leg, but you stab yourself with something, you still have a physiological response?
That I don't know. I'm guessing it has to be somewhere where there is feeling. There's a gentleman by the name of Brad Danivsky, a Canadian quadriplegic climber who's experimented with boosting, and he would give his leg or his toe electric shocks. Now, the only parallel that I can think of from personal experience is I play a lot of squash as well as a lot of poker. I don't know when I get time to work, really. I'm a shouter on a squash court, and I find that boosts my performance, or I feel it boosts my performance, because it gets the adrenaline going and it gets me really...
Is that like a Sharapova?
Yeah, no, not a wimpy thing like that. And what I do know as well is sometimes I drive when I'm more tired than I should be, let's say, obviously not in a dangerous way, but people who do that will often sort of slap themselves around the face, on the leg or whatever, just something that gets that blood pressure increased or psychs them up a little bit and makes them more alert.
Now the question is that cheating? And you're saying, according to the rules, it is.
According to the rules, it is, because they banned it. Therefore, it must be considered cheating. For me, I really don't know. It's almost like saying going training is cheating, because you're improving your performance by training. I think it's perhaps going too far in that respect.
No, I remember having an interesting discussion with you, which we might come back to in a moment, about badminton. You were there.
I was there
right.
when they were cheating.
Well, at the time you didn't say they were, but let's go to the music again. We're going to have No Fit State by Hot Chip. Now, talking about cheating, I happen to know that Mark was at the Olympics for that the infamous badminton event, when the cheating took place because these guys didn't play. They were trying to lose. And I had a word with Mark. How did you feel about that, Mark? Expected him to be as outraged as me, and you weren't bothered. And you'd paid good money.
Not at all, not at all. Okay, a lot of people have said firstly, let's do with the paying good money thing. The way the arena was set up, there were 3 badminton courts, and you could clearly see all 3 of them, and there was a big screen, so you had close-ups of one of the matches, whatever. So even when that stuff was going on, and what for me was the far court, there were 2 other badminton matches to watch. So my first point about the money is actually there were 2 other matches to watch at that time. The second thing about it is that through the, I think, 4-hour session that my ticket got me into, it was the longest one. If you bought tickets for synchronized swimming, you got 40 minutes for your money,
right? And
if you bought for badminton, it was 4.5 hours. I mean, it was I think it was 6:30 to 11. Anyway, so I got real value for my money,
but not when they were playing.
Oh, exponentially so when they were playing. But we're still talking about it today.
They didn't play.
Okay,
they didn't play.
They did.
How
they
did
played.
Play?
Okay, I have many pet expressions, and one of my favourite pet expressions is, I don't care what the rules are, but just do me the courtesy of telling me the rules, and then I'll play by those rules. And the people who composed or compiled the rules for that tournament decided that it could happen that they would know in advance who they would play in the next round, depending on whether or not they won or lost. That's what the whole controversy was about. Those 2 teams playing, it was doubles match, so both teams playing knew the team that won would play I think a Chinese team in the next round who were runaway favourites to win the title, and that was the semi-final.
So they were
match.
trying to lose.
So they were trying to not face the runaway favourites until the final, so they would at least get a silver medal instead of getting beaten in the semi-final and having to play in a bronze playoff and possibly getting no medal.
So your point is that it's worth paying good money to see people play to the rules, so even if the rules make it a really boring...
Absolutely. In poker, which we were talking about before, you should bet lots of money if you have a very good hand, is a very simplistic thing to say. You often see people betting lots of money when they have a really, really bad hand. It's called bluffing.
I know that
it's playing to the rules.
We did discuss at the time when you have the heats, and are people really trying to win? And you said the same thing.
They're trying to get into the next round.
And they're not trying their best.
Nope. And you will see, who's the 100-metre guy? Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
Did he run as fast in the heat as he did in the final? No. So he should be disqualified for not trying his best.
I know, I've been thinking about this, and I think the counter-argument is that they were not trying to lose, because if they'd have tried to lose, i.e. ended up at the back, they'd have been out. So they were still trying to get into the final by performing.
Okay, and the badminton players were trying to get into the final, to quote your precise words, trying to get into the final by avoiding the hot favourites in the semi-final.
And this is the point. This is the point, isn't it? As my mother used to say, what's this got to do with the price of fish? Or what's this got to do with BizBuzz? And I think that it's relevant to the debate about tax avoidance versus evasion, in that there is the spirit of tax avoidance. So were they playing to the spirit of the Olympic tradition, further, higher, longer, and all that sort of thing? And I don't think even you would say they were.
I am going to do something I rarely do on BizBuzz. I'm going to agree with you.
They weren't playing to
the
spirit.
They weren't playing to the spirit, but you don't get any medals for the spirit, except in football where there's a fair play award, but that's another story, and most laudable. But what they were trying to do was, within the rules of the game,
as in tax avoidance.
Yep, and money. You know what? Every time that the government works out that its rules mean that there is a way of people avoiding tax, they change the rules to try and minimise that. And in 4 years' time, in fact, before that, when there are other badminton competitions here, there and everywhere, I bet you 50p here and now, because you know I like gambling, I bet you 50p that the rules are not structured in that way, because the people who make the rules will be mortified by the situation that they created, in exactly the same way that the government tries and the tax authorities try continuously to remove the opportunity for
I'm going to
Feel
change
like
the
you're me
subject.
to do something wrong. Are you?
I'm getting all sleepy about this subject now
Oh,
because
really?
I've made my point. It's to do with playing to the spirit of the rules. And I just think that you ought to pay attention to some research about power napping. Do you have a nap?
I don't. I do siesta when I get the chance, which I think is technically is much longer than a nap. I had a lovely week in Spain, as you know, and siesta every day.
I like to keep up to date with the research on napping. Not only do we know from research that power napping improves your ability on attentional tasks, so they give a load of people the tasks, then they allow them to nap or not nap, and then they notice that those that napped did better on the tests. And they've also looked at people now on how do you nap. So how do you nap? If you were to have a power nap now, what would you do? Lean back, lean forward?
I would lean forward. I can't imagine I would lean forwards. I would probably lean back in my chair, fold my arms, close my eyes, and do my best to drift off.
I've seen you do it.
To your dulcet tones.
And you're doing it the right way, because the best way to nap is lying backwards. But if you can't and you have to lie forwards, that's better than no napping. But they've even distinguished that if you lie forwards and nap, your ability when you wake up after 10 minutes or so is improved.
Okay, so we talked a little earlier about gambling. Let me ask you a question. How much would you bet that I can convince my boss that the power nap that they caught me having was good for their business?
That's the point. Just tell your boss we said so on BizBuzz and there's research to back it up. Anyway, the Beatles have got to say something about a good morning. I just love that outro. I just love all those animal noises. I had to play that right till the end, those noises. Anyway, welcome, Kevin. This is Kevin Dobson from Beyond Fitness.
Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Now, Kevin's going to talk to us about staying fit at work. Something we've said before, a phrase we've used, is staying fit to think. So a lot of us go to offices and we use our brains, and we tend to forget that the mind and the body are not separate. And you've got a lot to say about how to keep the whole thing working at its best, Kevin.
That's right. Exercise isn't just about affecting the body. Research has shown that it does affect the mind.
Yeah. And I, as a psychologist, I buy into this. However, before we get there, maybe you could just tell us how you got into the fitness business. What's your journey?
My journey into fitness. I used to play local football, and my coach always said, the fitter you are, the easier the game. Right. So I used to go down the gym every day, keep my fitness up. So come Saturday, I knew I could be at the top of my game, being fit for sport, rather than making my sport making me fit. I was fit to play football.
I see. Yeah. So you, as you say, you were using fitness to play your sport rather than in and of itself as a business.
That's
but
correct.
Now you're in the business of fitness. Do you play football anymore?
Not as often as I'd like. The reason what happened, how I got into being a personal trainer, I was playing my sport and I ruptured my cruciate ligament and damaged some bone and cartilage on my right knee.
Ouch.
The usual.
The usual. So I was off work for 3 months.
Oh.
So pain, yes, it hurt. And whilst I was off work, I realised that I wanted to do something to help people change their lives, because obesity was becoming more in the news, and it made me think, who do we need to educate, the parents or the children? So I went along to Reading College. They were doing a careers open day. So I went along, had an interview, and they ask you certain questions, and it points to a career that would suit you, that you have a real passion for. The career that came out was a nutritionist.
All right, so that came out from these assessments that they did on the
That's correct.
on the course, right? Okay.
So they asked me some questions, but the nutritionist course was 3 years full time, being married, mortgage, children. 3 years full time education wasn't an option. So from a nutritionist also came personal trainer, where you do cover nutrition.
Yeah.
So I thought, right, let's do it. So when I went back to work, I handed in my notice.
Wow.
And then done a 3-month intense course and became a personal trainer.
Right.
We talked a couple of weeks ago about starting businesses, about business plans and those kinds of things. How much of a business you obviously had the desire and you had the rationale to say that this was a business you thought would work. Did you have what a bank manager would call a business plan?
No.
Well, that's a one-word answer for it. Yeah.
Not until you do the course, and as part of the course, they do go over how to do a business plan and what you need to follow an action plan, which an action plan I use with my clients. They need their goals, so every business need their goals. To achieve your goals, you need to take actions. So business, losing weight, getting fitter, they all need goals, actions, action plans.
And I'm just going to remind people, Kevin, that they can, if they want to ask you some questions about maybe what to eat, what not to eat, or how to stay fit, they can call the studio on 01628 488 975. They can email us studio@marlowfm.co.uk. They can even text us on, is that 07?
Yeah, 07900.
That's right.
975 975.
Terrific. Now, you were talking there about a plan. I know you said something to me about, was it trashing things, smashing things? What was it you said that people have got to do in a plan?
There's always new ways of thinking about training, functional training, squatting, lunging, smashing, lifting. Right. They're all what is termed as what the cavemen used to do. So this is what we should do because our body is still the same as the cavemen. Right. So we should train the same. So go to the gym. So a lot of people will drive to the gym, then they'll sit on a machine, do some weighted machines, or they'll walk on a stationary treadmill or ride a stationary bike. So they need to get more movement within their exercises.
So it's about, you've got to move, because I know there's a lot of research, isn't there? I think we've mentioned it on air before, but anyway, I know there's a lot of research on the fact that we don't move enough. I mean, I'm sitting here now, and looking back over my day, I've spent more time sitting at my desk at work and here than I will do moving. And I read that you can't compensate for the downsides of that by then going off and doing some exercise. It's about keeping moving.
Keeping moving. What we'll find is we'll be sat down and our body adapts to its environment. So if you're sat down, your hamstrings are in a shortened state. So you'll end up potentially feeling a lower back pain where your hamstrings have become short. So you go to the gym, stretch your hamstrings out. So you're in the gym for an hour, stretch your hamstrings out for 30 seconds to a minute. But in effect, you're sat down probably for 8 hours a day, most people. So how can a minute affect your hamstrings when you're sat down for hours? It can't. So standing up, you'll find that you will fidget, and that's your body telling you need to move.
Right, so when my mother said to me, sit still, you fidget, she was not doing me a favour.
She wasn't doing you a favour. You were moving because you needed to move. Your body was in discomfort, so your brain's saying, right, I need to move now because I don't like this position for too long. So
getting up and walking around the office, again, is well, just going to get to the water cooler and back is a good reason. It's a good excuse, and you're getting some movement in. Good
excuse. You could even go and get with your friends, your work colleagues, a cup of coffee. Nobody would second guess that you're exercising.
You're exercising.
Okay, now I want to come back to that in a second, but I just want to pick up first of all on something that you're just talking about there about the pointlessness of stuff. So I spend most of my day sitting down, same as Mike, very sedentary work on the phones or in meetings, whatever. But what I do is I make sure that I'm physically active as well, and I play squash 2-3 times a week, and if I'm feeling a bit mad, 4 times. I play golf, so I feel that that's compensating. Am I wrong?
You may need to move more
during work.
Okay.
Because you are sat down in one position for a long period of time, and then you'll go into the gym. And are you strong and fit enough to play squash, or are you playing squash to get fit?
No. I am a firm believer one must not play squash to get fit. You have to get fit to play squash. That I was taught a long time ago. However, I don't do it.
Are you a good squash player?
I'm better than many and not as good as many.
Right.
I'm not as bad. I'll give you a good run around, that's for sure.
That was the bit that worried me, though, when I read this research, is that because I go to the gym, I go for runs in the morning, I do a lot of cycling, but that doesn't make any difference to what I'm doing when I'm sitting down.
Yeah. Now, going back to where you were just now, and maybe we'll pick up on this in a moment, but I have horrible memories from a decade or three ago, because I'm not very old, so it can't be three, of people telling you that when you're sitting at your desk you should be doing little arm exercises, and I'm on radio so you can't see what I'm doing now, which is just as well.
Looks like Popeye.
And basically looking like a little bit of a pillock at your desk. So what I'm interested in hearing after the next song is how you do that without looking a pillock. And the next song I think you chose Jerry Halliwell's My Chico Latino, if you like my Spanish accent. Why?
That was number one when my daughter was born 13 years ago.
It's as simple as that.
A little bit of business, a little bit of information, and a little bit of entertainment on BizBuzz on MarlowFM 97.5.
Yes, welcome back. It's a little bit of BizBuzz. It's Mike and Mark, and we have with us our guest, Kevin Dobson, who's talking about staying fit at work, and he's going to stay with us for another half hour, and you can call us if you've got any questions about staying fit, what you might want to eat, not eat, and how you can clench your buttocks without anybody knowing. You could call 01628 488 975. You could text on 07900 975 975, and you can email studio@marlowfm.co.uk. Before we go back to the subject of fitness, just to finish off and to give people time to think about clenching their buttocks, Kevin, your final choice or your next choice of music, I know you don't have any more children, so what's this about? Let's Dance 5.
Well, this was number one on my wedding day.
It's always simple, isn't it? It's
simple.
Really simple. Let's Dance by 5 from their Greatest Hits album, and it was a greatest hit when Kevin, our guest, got married. Brings back memories.
Very happy memories.
Very excellent.
Happy.
Well said, Kevin. Well, now, let's go back to surreptitious exercise. So, you can sit at your desk and you can do the infamous
buttock
clenching, and nobody will know. Is there anything else you can do that you could do to exercise other parts of the body and so on?
Well, as I said earlier, that you're going to be sat down and your hamstrings are going to adapt to their environment, so therefore they will shorten. So the best thing that you can do, apart from standing up, would be to extend your legs out, and if you just bring your toes up towards you, you will find that you'll have a stretch in your hamstrings and calves.
Pardon? I'm just doing it now.
I am doing it as we speak, yeah.
What are we doing? We're straightening our legs.
Straightening out your legs and bringing your toes towards you.
Oh, yeah.
You'll feel that your
On the
calves-
ground or on the floor or off the floor?
On the floor.
Oh, on the floor.
On the floor. If you raise your leg, then you're activating muscles. You want them to be relaxed so you can stretch them.
Right.
Okay.
So you could
Feel
also,
better?
I feel stretched.
Feel better already. You feel stretched.
Should I be clenching my buttocks at the same time or not?
No.
So he's fixated now. What about the idea that there must be things in the office? Because when we first talked all that time ago about my client, I had this image of you saying to him, well, you need to get yourself a cross trainer, and he's walking into the office with a cross trainer, and it's not very surreptitious. Are there bits of equipment, kind of equipment that you could bring in? Could you start lifting fire extinguishers?
That would be an option, as long as the fire health and safety man
Health and safety wouldn't like it.
Move in your fire extinguishers around.
The fire officer wouldn't like it either.
No. Resistance bands, they come in different strengths. You can bring those in.
Oh, those the little elastic
bands,
Yeah.
Small weights, your drinking water, you could make sure it's always full up. So every time you lift it, it's going to be slightly heavier.
Do you mean just to drink? I.e., keep drinking every time you drink the water, you're exercising your arm?
Correct.
Wow. Does that apply in the pub?
You are exercising your arm,
as they say. But so water is quite heavy, isn't it?
That's correct.
It's quite heavy. So if you had 2-litre water bottles, would that give you enough just to move those a few times every 20 minutes or so? Would that make a difference?
It would make a difference, because if you're sat still all day for 8 hours just moving around normally, and then you introduce additional movement with the bottles of water, yes, that will have a difference. That would make a difference.
Right. And is there anything else that people could bring in? They're going to get noticed doing it, but at least it's not going to be taking a long break to go and do some exercise. But is there anything else people could do? Lifting filing cabinets? Health and safety are going to have a field day here.
As long as you're moving more throughout the day, you're going to increase your energy expenditure, and it's all about increasing energy expenditure, moving around.
Keep moving.
I'm delighted to say we have an email from Brian of Bourne End, and
Brian of Bourne End.
Brian of Bourne End, who doesn't give his surname, and maybe a clue as to why he doesn't is he starts by saying, "I am a blob," and the gist of his email is he does no exercise, and he's happy to. He's interested by what's been said, and he's happy to sort of kick it off. For somebody who's a blob, who does no exercise, who really is unfit, he doesn't want to do himself a mischief. So what should be the first things that he should be working on?
The first thing, if somebody perceives themselves to be overweight, because everything, all of it, is all about perception. They believe themselves to be overweight.
Oh, I believe myself to be overweight.
So first of all, he needs to write down what he wants to achieve, because if he doesn't have a destination, his journey will come to an end very quickly.
Interesting. So it's all about having a goal again.
Having a goal again. So
yeah.
if he's written down his goal, then from that goal, he needs to write down his actions. What am I going to do to help me achieve my goals? So,
can I ask you about goal setting?
You can.
I.e. fitness goals. It's very easy to set a fitness goal which would be to lose a stone. I would suggest it's a better goal to translate that into something positive, which is to be X stone.
That's correct. If
Yes.
if you want to be a certain weight, and with exercise, it's not about weight, because as we all know, muscle weighs heavier than fat, but muscle takes up less space.
Yeah, we were
That's
having
why I'm so heavy.
Yeah, you're all muscle, Mark. We were having this very discussion at breakfast today at my breakfast network meeting, and about the BMI.
BMI.
Isn't that a different breakfast network?
That many rugby players, top-class rugby players.
Johnny Wilkinson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Johnny Wilkinson as well would probably be classified as overweight on a BMI.
He is classed as obese on the BMI chart.
Wow, and the man is solid
The
muscle.
man is solid muscle, so he's not really tall, but he's a very solid man.
It's
So
interesting.
BMI is not for your athlete, it's for your general population people. So you go to the doctors would take your BMI, and they shouldn't use it for an individual person. The BMI should be used for an average of the population. So you'll go there and they'll do your BMI, but they shouldn't say, right, you're overweight because your BMI is such and such. It's about a generalisation. The population has a BMI.
Yeah, I suppose a better choice of words might be you are heavier than the average for your height in the population. That would be valid for Johnny Wilkinson. It doesn't say he's fat. It says he's heavier than the average for his height, which is true.
He's vertically challenged.
Yeah. I'd be the perfect weight if I was 7 foot tall.
Yeah, exactly.
What they would do with an athlete would say, okay, you weigh this much and your body fat. They would do body fat percentage measurements. Because the aim of an athlete is to have a reduced body fat and increased muscle. But they need to look at their sport, because they don't want too much muscle. So if you look at a long distance runner, not much muscle on one of those.
No, that's right. Bradley Wiggins, something like 4%.
Something like
As
that.
a long distance cyclist. Yeah. Can I ask a personal question?
My body fat?
What's your body fat?
My body fat percentage, I don't know.
But it's not a lot.
It's not a lot. It's around 15%, I would say.
I think it comes back into what you said earlier about perceptions, and I think I have no idea what my percentage body fat is, but I know I have too much. Or no, I have the perception that I have more. I know that I have more than I would like to have. So I think that's much more important than a number.
And now let's remind ourselves of the relevance of this. The reason I think it's relevant is because I'm interested in people being at their best. And so, for example, if you are overweight, if you have a high body fat percentage, I'm going to assume that for some reason this is going to have an effect on you around about midday, late afternoon, when you're sitting in a meeting.
Feeling tired.
About
to go to sleep.
And is that to do with what you've eaten during the day as well as the way you physically are? Is there something that you would do with people's diet in an office as opposed to preparing for the track?
Most definitely. Everything should start with your diet. You wake up in the morning, you haven't eaten for 8 hours because hopefully you've had roughly 8 hours sleep. A lot of people will have a shower, go to work, no breakfast. So we are at our busiest in the morning, yet we fuel our body the least because we're not having a breakfast. And then come lunchtime, our body's saying, okay, I need to rest because you haven't fueled me. Or what will happen, people will be hungry at lunchtime and they will have a nice big bowl of pasta. Their blood sugar will rise, so the quicker and higher it rises, the quicker and lower it will drop. So it's about keeping that blood sugar level.
I mean, teach diabetics, don't they? One of the things of nutrition for diabetics is to keep it stable.
Keep it stable.
Yeah,
so
okay.
Eating every 2 to 3 hours.
Go on.
I'm going to say, I have a question.
Go.
Which is, in the scenario, like you just said, where, it's 2:30 in the afternoon, you're sluggish, you're tired. What we talked about in the programme today is 3 potential solutions to that. One is have a power nap for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
One is do some surreptitious exercises or walk up the stairs a few flights or whatever it may be. And the other one is break a toe.
Break a toe, stab yourself in the leg.
Yeah, or stab yourself in the leg.
Yeah, sure.
So, which is best? There's only one way to find out. No, is it just a case of what's best for any given individual?
That's right. You need to look at everybody's circumstances and lifestyle. So if somebody's not eating correctly, the first thing you need to address before you even look at an exercise program is their diet.
And that's always a personal.
It's always
a personal issue,
Yeah.
which is my link into asking you. We figured out that you had records because for each child you had a record when you got married. What's left? Why have we got Daydream Believer?
I like the song. It always makes me happy.
Oh, that's it.
That's it.
Keep
Makes
it
me
simple.
happy.
Keep it simple. So, Kevin, just to kind of continue and finish this conversation about the importance of diet and looking at what you eat during the day when you're at work in the office. It's important to me because I do remember when I worked at one of the pharmaceutical companies I worked at, I had a team of people, and at various times we'd have to go into meetings, and no matter how powerful the people were going to be in that meeting, so for example, for all I know, we might have had the chief executive come in to visit, one of these guys could not stay awake. And he would actually start to snore. So we always positioned someone near him to nudge him so that he would, and he'd wake up. And the poor guy,
Outrageous.
Absolutely. But he just couldn't keep his eyes open. And I twigged it was because we had a subsidised canteen. And he would have what I would have for dinner at night, he would have for lunch. And I thought, something to do with it? What do you think?
Yeah,
Something to do?
portion sizes. He may have been having a large portion of his carbohydrates.
Yes, he did like his pies and his potatoes.
Pies and potatoes. So, breakfast like a king, lunch like a lord, and supper like as a pauper.
Once again, you sound like my mum. It's all about my mum today.
With some snacks in between, just to keep that blood sugar level.
What do you have for breakfast?
What do I have for breakfast? It can vary. Smoothies, banana, a berry.
That's a bit of sugar then.
A bit of sugar, but it's natural sugar.
Right.
And because I haven't eaten for 8 hours, so my blood sugar level will be low. My muscles will still be working throughout the night, so I need to replenish the natural sugars back into my body, ready for the day. So then I would probably follow that with maybe an omelette or a chicken stir fry. 5:30 in the morning. Great start to the
breakfast.
For breakfast.
Okay,
Chicken
I thought
stir
you'd
fry.
stopped after the smoothie and the. Yeah. Okay, I like your kind of breakfast. That's good for me. I love breakfast. It's the best meal of the day. One of my favourite things to do is to be away from home in a hotel and there's a buffet breakfast because some people think I just try and get value for money. It's not. I just love all that kind of stuff.
A good fried breakfast is very good, providing it's fried in the right oils.
Really?
Yeah.
Come on, tell us more. It's like
Yeah.
a fried breakfast.
breakfast.
You heard it here on BizBuzz.
Yeah.
It's good for you. Come on.
Yeah, if you fry your eggs in a nice, good fat.
Coconut oil, by any chance?
Coconut oil is
I've heard this.
very good. Or even ghee. It's very good. It's got high heat tolerance, so therefore it won't change the properties into a bad fat, so you can heat it nice and hot. Fry your eggs. Good quality bacon. Tomatoes.
Oh, right.
Nice breakfast.
So we don't have to go on a macrobiotic diet when I invite you in to teach me how to stay fit, to think at work and stay sharp.
Definitely not. All the good foods are out there.
Right. I mean, I do have a vision of the future where it's quite acceptable to see your boss, say, in his office with a visitor who you know to be his business consultant, and they're sitting having a discussion about the business, and you think, okay, I know because I am. It's acceptable now to see your boss sitting in his office having a discussion with his coach, which is about him. In the business and his performance. Do you think it'll ever come about where it's quite acceptable for people to see the guy sitting in his office having a discussion with his personal trainer?
I think it should become a part of the norm for a good working office, so they're educated, so they can make the right choices for breakfast, snacks, lunch, so the boss knows he's getting the best out of his staff, because they've been educated to eat correctly, so he knows that in meetings he's not going to get people falling asleep.
Do you get invited into offices to talk to them about this sort of thing?
Not at the moment.
Oh,
Would
well,
you like
who knows?
to?
Who knows?
Who knows who's listening? Who's
Yeah.
listening? I'm just trying to put myself in a position of employee in a largish company, and one of many people on a sales floor or whatever, and the boss says, "Hey, I've got some great news. I've got this guy who's going to come and tell you what you should be having for breakfast and lunch and stuff." My gut reaction would be along the lines of, "What's it got to do with you?" How would you? So, sort of, it's often, it's well known that dumping a solution on people will primarily encourage resistance to it rather than acceptance of it. So, what would you think would be the first step if a manager or owner of a business is listening now and thinking, okay, I'd like to do something like this for my staff? What's the first thing they do? How do they get the staff on side?
A business needs to be proactive rather than reactive. So a lot of people will have time off because they're ill. So a company needs to make sure their staff are always on top of their game. So if a boss is increasing the targets, the employees are going to think, well, how am I going to achieve that? I'm already flagging in the afternoon. I feel like having a sleep. I can't possibly work any harder. And then we can come up with a solution. Okay, so this is how we can increase your performance. If you increase your performance, therefore, you're going to reach your targets. You reach your targets, you'll achieve your bonus. Therefore, you're going to earn more money. So everybody's happy.
Everybody's happy. You
Everybody's
earn more
happy.
money. I know also that, just to finish off, Kevin, thank you very much indeed for coming along and sharing all this with us. I do hope people, somebody does invite you into the office to help them stay fit at work. But I do know from mixing with my clinical psychologist colleagues that it is part of, well, one of them actually said that if these days, if he didn't prescribe activity for someone who was of difficult mood, depressed or anxious, he feels he might be sued for professional negligence, because there is so much evidence that physical activity improves mood, if not your ability to really perform well at work. So thank you again, Kevin, from Beyond Fitness. Do you have a website?
www.beyondfitness.org.uk.
Right. Well, we're going to play out now with I Feel Good by James Brown, which has fond memories from me at a conference at a company I went to. I did feel good. And then we'll be handing over to Blink FM, and we will be back in 2 weeks' time.
We'll be back in 2 weeks' time, and we're currently negotiating with a couple of people about who might be our guest in 2 weeks' time. If you think it should be you, get in touch with us.
Yes, great. So, goodbye.
Ciao.